I did a video a while back describing the so-called Dolphin school parable that was creatively put forward by Dr. Brook Ziporyn on the shocking and transformative teaching in the Lotus Sutra. And I had a question from a listener in relation to that particular video. He said, "Does the Lotus Sutra disavow reincarnation?" And what I said in reply was, I am no expert, but I would say the answer is, on the contrary. The Lotus is embedded with many teachings, stories, parables that involve reference to past lives of various arhats, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas. See, for example, in Chapter 2, wherein Manjushri speaks of his previous life, as well as that of Maitreya Bodhisattva. Now, is this meant as a literal teaching for us? That is a deeper question. I myself think of reincarnation as referring to the fact that moment by moment we are different, reincarnated, if you will, due to the nature of impermanence. Well, he came back and said, I ask this because we are told in this parable, quote, "This is the only world. There is no other world," close quote. So I think we're agreed that reincarnation is no guarantee of life outside this world, as it seems to me it often is used by belief systems. What is the significance of reincarnation in the Lotus, would you say? And I responded to that by saying, yes, I do agree that reincarnation is not a life outside this world phenomenon. And to the extent that in various belief systems it is portrayed in a concrete, literal way, that does not, in my view, express an ultimate reality. The problem is that no elements of any belief system can express ultimate reality, since ultimate reality is non-dual, not capable of being expressed completely, accurately, with any concepts. In the religious experience, the so-called self-realization of noble wisdom, as it is called in the Lankavatara Sutra, there is what I think of as a mysterious interconnectedness. That is why, even though the Prajnaparamita Sutras speak of shunyata or emptiness, does not mean that there is nothing that is real. If our interconnectedness is what is real, then the logical outcome is a feeling of compassion for those aspects of ourselves that, in a mundane perspective, seem to be other than me. What Ziporyn is saying, if you listen to the last 2 minutes of this video, is that he sees the, quote, significance of reincarnation in the Lotus, close quote, as being a way of expressing this interconnectedness as an identification of ourselves with all beings, past, present, and future. Thus, the Lotus transcends not only the dimension of space in terms of the apparent separateness of forms or beings, but also of time, in that we are also connected to past and future existences. Now, as for my own comment and response to your question, I think we have to go to Chapter 2 of the Lotus and recognize that all teachings are expressed in conceptual, that is, limited terms, are skillful or expedient or tactful means that the Buddha uses to help us pull toward that recognition of shunyata and karuna, or great compassion. This gets expressed in the Lotus by means of encouraging us to identify ourselves with a timeless and eternal process of becoming, functioning as a bodhisattva in the service of helping sentient beings and ultimately becoming Buddhas ourselves. This, I think, is the implication of his prediction of Buddhahood for the Shravakas. And this, I believe, is why he invokes the notion of reincarnation. It helps us to create a deeper identification and helps to explain the stages of teaching and spiritual development in a way that was prevalent in that Indian culture. Anyhow, I hope some of this makes sense, and I thank you for your thoughtful question. This question is one that not only gets pondered within the context of Buddhism, but that also is one that I hear from people who know nothing about Buddhism, other than in a perhaps very superficial way. And again, just to make clear my own view in the matter, I think that Buddhism probably did inherit this notion in a more literal sense from Hinduism within the Indian culture in which Buddhism arose. And I think some folks in more modern times like to contemplate who they were in a past life. And I just don't see that as being either useful or all that meaningful, insofar as thinking of it in a literal sense. Now, in the advent of DNA studies and genetic analysis, I think there is a concrete scientific way in which a person can trace their lineage back to uh, forebears some of whom might be famous or noteworthy in certain respects. But again, that's different than having sort of past life experiences that lead up to our current existence. My take on karma from the early phase when I got involved in Buddhism is that, again, I tie it to the concept of impermanence. I am not the same person right now in terms of all of the aspects of whoever this is speaking at this very moment as I was at the beginning of this video. So in a sense, in every nanosecond, every moment of time, we are evolving, we are changing, and so we can think of those as different lives, if you will, rather than as a continuous, separate, discrete self that exists in an unchanging way. So that's one angle on the matter. The other is in terms of, for example, within the Lotus Sutra, is the idea that the Buddha again is always oriented toward teaching beings. And again, I think that what he does in the Lotus in talking about past lives is to help the assembly, help the listeners, whether it be an individual or a group of individuals, appreciate that they're part of a bigger picture, part of a longer lineage. And I think part of what this does maybe is to help create an identification, particularly with the Bodhisattva path, and maybe also helps to decrease the sense of egoism or egotism that tends to be an obstacle to movement along a spiritual path. So that, for example, when we think of ourselves as a discrete, separate entity and we're working to attain Buddhahood, and I should take credit for all these practices and things that I do to further myself toward that goal, that's a much narrower way of thinking of who I am, because it again views myself as a separate being with a limited lifetime and with the capacity to attain those kinds of goals, when in fact I'm part of a bigger picture. I'm part of a bigger network of interconnections and interdependencies, and that anything that I do that results in furtherance toward any benefit to the world is not something I can take credit for. It's something that unfolds as a function of all the various causes and conditions that have preceded me, that has led up to this very moment in time when I am here sharing information about the Buddhadharma with anybody who's listening to this video. Namo Mita Boots. Namo Mita Boots. Namo Mita Boots.